Because now anybody who is just talking about like legitimately having liberty is going to be tossed into the bucket of a right-wing extremist. All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Let's party. So I thought this one was going to go away after the trucker convoy in Canada, but I was watching some clips from the Joe Rogan Experience, and he had Bridget Phetasy on, and check this out. It is, you just...
Did you see the fucking article today? There was a thing on the CBC, and it was talking about the word freedom, and that the word freedom is being used many times by far-right activists. Freedom. Here, I'll send it to you, Jamie, because this is so fucking, Canada is so fucking wild right now. It's such a like really crazy place. There it is.
It shows you that without the simple existence of the First Amendment, how quickly other countries that we thought were just like us could be very, very different.
Why the word freedom is such a useful rallying cry for protesters. The word has become common amongst far-right groups. So by putting that far-right in there.
They know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing.
Far-right. But like, there's no indication whatsoever that those truckers in Canada were far-right. A lot of those are working-class people. Yeah. That just did not like the idea that they were being forced to do this medical procedure in order to keep their job. And so they label them as far-right. Yeah. Trudeau personally labeled them as racists and misogynists. Just so he could disparage them. Yeah. Just so like whatever they say doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. And it's not just that they tried. It's the fact that people actually bought it. Imagine thinking, believing that because your government told you that freedom and saying the word freedom and protesting for freedom makes you far right wing. This is why so many people have been disillusioned with left-wing politics, whether they like Republicans or not.
Yeah. So this is what they're doing here with the term freedom, which is like one of the most basic tenets for human rights. Your liberty as a human being, your ability to express yourself, your ability to talk about things, to protest, to do what you want.
That's what
freedom
I mean.
Is so important.
Inherent in the idea of a free country is the right to protest.
Right.
They go hand in hand. That's why that headline is beyond parody.
But it's actually something that's being pushed on the CBC, which is really crazy.
Well, it's sinister.
Like, yeah, I mean, and Bridget is exactly right there. You cannot have a protest without some type of freedom behind it. What are you protesting for? And if we're not allowed to protest, which we absolutely are, then we don't have freedom. But that's a bad thing?
Like they're setting you up for this idea that you requesting freedom, it's like it puts you in the category of anti-vaxxers or racists or far-right people. It's just these weird ways that mainstream media has fallen into labeling people in order to pass an agenda and pass this to put this narrative out there. But the fact that they're willing to do it with something that is so important, like freedom.
Like protesting.
Yeah.
Protesting is fundamental to freedom. So to say that using the word freedom is something that protesters use, you're basically, this is like
not just
China
protesters,
stuff.
far-right because you can have far-left protesters, and that's not being talked about. Like freedom is very
they don't want freedom.
The fact that
I was just going to say that. Of course, they don't want freedom, but they think they do. They think they're fighting for the freedom of this, that, whatever issue. So how the connection to one side of the aisle for freedom is not only insanity, but it seems dangerous. Because now anybody who is just talking about like legitimately having liberty is going to be tossed into the bucket of a right-wing extremist.
They're saying that there's an actual article disparaging the concept of freedom. It's really crazy. It's scary as fuck. And I never would have thought before the pandemic that would have happened to Canada. I thought Canada was this like really friendly, cool place where...
This is exactly what I was just saying. Same thing with Australia. We think, America, UK, Australia, they're all kind of like the same thing. But when lockdowns happened, it was not all the same thing. I mean, I don't want to bring out any of that up, but check out what they were doing in Australia. It was not the same as they were doing here.
Where they kind of got it. Like Canada was kind of better than the United States, in my opinion. I would go up there. I'm like, people are friendlier. They're nice. It's like, I would say with Canada, I always used to use this term. There's 20% less douchebags.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's like. But now under Trudeau, it's like, it's become this very weird thing. Have you seen, they're trying to push for a digital ID now.
Yeah.
They have that in my state too. I just had to renew my license and they asked me if I wanted to do the digital ID. And I was like, I'll hold off. Thank you very much.
Essentially, something about the way that Canada was founded. So how I wish I could remember it. I just don't know enough about Canada.
Well, they don't have a First Amendment up there.
Yeah.
First of all, that's a giant factor.
But something
they
too
don't
about
have
how
freedom
it's
of speech.
borderline corporate. It was interesting. I don't know enough about Canada, and I was reading it, and I told her
What is her name?
Anna Slatz.
Does she have an article about this?
I told her she should write one about it because I think it's a really important insight that she has, and she should put it out there. Because I was like, how? Because it seemed very liberal to me. So how is this what seemed like a very liberal, tolerant, open society slipped into what seems like totalitarianism, or slipping into it? They just seem
exactly. She's spot on, and it's not just about where we are now. It's about what this means for where we're going to be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 50 years. So, I mean, you can go check out the podcast yourself if you want to check it out. Shout out to Joe Rogan and Bridget Phetasy. But the fact is, I talk nonstop about semantic obfuscation. Freedom has always been a good thing. Freedom has never been even, you can't have bad freedom until now. And it's not in America yet, but it's coming. It's coming. And if it wasn't enshrined in our Constitution, you better believe they would have a surgical precision on how they would get this message across and get actual people to believe that freedom is a bad thing, that freedom is a right-wing tenet. Semantic obfuscation. If we don't fight for the values that we hold, then everything becomes nothing and nothing becomes everything and everything all at once. If everything means nothing, then nothing means anything. We have to do better than this, guys. And you have to see this when it's coming and call it out. I didn't see anybody else talking about this article. I didn't see anybody else talking about this clip. This is from last week. You guys are just cool with freedom going the way of all the other things that we once held dear? Not me. Not me. That is the last thing that you will be able to take from me. So you guys do what you want, but I'm keeping my freedom for now. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, I am out of here. Peace.